Zwart Vierkant Slotstuk is the third full-length album from Netherlands-based black metal band Grey Aura, and I would say they're more of a progressive metal band, an extreme progressive metal band, as they've developed over the years. They've actually been around for quite a long time, and the folks who started the band as a duo back in the day really did start quite young in terms of their black metal experience, rolling all the way back to 2009. Considering these folks are about 30 years old or less now, they started quite early in their youth, and they worked towards something with a lot of more meaning, and something that is definitely an avant-garde black metal experience by nature and influence. I think what they bring to this record and its predecessor, the Zwart Vierkant, the Black Square, and the story being told, come from the sort of main thematic writers' interest in art history, as well as progressive movements, avant-garde art, and how that affects philosophy and perception. And I think that the main character molding perception in a way that is damaging to themselves is pretty interesting as a story. I haven't read the novel associated with this book, but the fact that there is an associated novel that one of the band members wrote speaks to the level of conception here being bigger than most anything else you'll find in black metal right now in terms of really just going the extra mile. Otherwise, I won't go through the full history of the band. I think it's better just to read about that in the review. I would say that this is subtitled Slotstuk as a finale. That is what that word means. The title is The Black Square Finale, and so this is the second half of the book. The events of all of this coming together into one great crescendo of tragedy at the end, where the person is left at a point of madness. That is really what they're trying to illustrate here, and the thing is that there's so much of a novel to cover, there's so much to say, that this might give some people a little bit of an ADHD attack in terms of how much and how quickly every song pivots at every given moment. I describe this music generally as something which is linear. It is in the sense that it is following one path, and it is not returning to any sort of mood, or it's not necessarily repeating a chorus at any given point. It will repeat whatever tirade it is on at the time, and sometimes that is fantastic work, but these are not typical song structures, and this is not pop metal in any sense. I will compare it to the rhythmic station of like a Furia and the inventive interruptions of Dat Heimskard, but there's more that we could say. But for now, we'll cut to a song here, and then we'll talk more about what's different about this album, what is way better about this album than the last one, and how they all come together for just a really interesting experience for people interested in cerebral black metal that is also challenging and avant-garde. So I would add that if you're a fan of earlier Hail Spirit Noir and the kind of the psychedelic oddness of it, and you like the storytelling side of Void, the UK black metal band, and you figure that there is a very accomplished member of Laster here as playing bass, and we've got former Severe Torture drummer Seth Vandaloo on this thing. You have an insane rhythm section for this record. It's a step above the previous one, which is quite good in all respects, but the addition of the drummer here really makes a huge difference, and it means that the bassist steps up in a way that really entertains throughout this record. The rhythm section just really sells this record for me, not just the tempo map and how interesting its tirades are and its self-interruption that's just so constant, but is so much it's a stymieing experience. The senses can't really handle all the directive changes at first, and I'm one to learn a record, to learn its ins and outs and its back and forth exchanges, and here I found it was very challenging because we're literally just writing a direct line through this whole thing, and it's making a lot of turns along the way that keep it difficult to read in terms of mood and event. And a lot of this is contained in the lyrics, so if you're one to spend time with the lyrics, it will still be abstract. This is still an abstract work. What does come together is a sense of the story, the events, and when the kind of the mental breaks happen, and where we pass from moments of wonder and relief to mania and frustration and collapse. So there's a lot that happens on this record, record. It's extremely entertaining in that sense. Otherwise, there are modern touches to all of this. There are dissonant riffs touched upon, there's jazz fusion, there's post-black metal progressivism all over this thing. It's not typical in any sense. They pass through a lot of these stylistic events very quickly, and a lot of them are just never revisited. So it's not so much avant-garde as it is just piling on a million different ideas to convey scene, moment, and emotion and feeling and all of this as we tangle through this story. For something about such a simple kind of cubist artistic movement in early surrealism, we find that this is an extremely complicated and detailed web woven throughout this record. And getting a sense of its sound and the atmosphere of it, it's really hard to just point to one point and say that's the wayfarer. That's where you're gonna find a root, because there really isn't a rooting for this act, and I think that it makes it more exciting to focus on the performances. I feel like this is a performance piece. It is something that's meant to be performed all the way through, and it's impressive for all the things that it does in its finessed movement, and that's why I emphasize the rhythm section so much, is because I'd love to see this performed, because it is so impressive in all that it does, and the full oeuvre that there's really a gamut to all of this as it creates itself. A lot of these interests are completely pretentious when you think about it, like abstract art, art history, philosophy, extreme metal in general, and that's not going to be for everyone. For me, I don't find those things pretentious so much as just endlessly interesting in combination, and I find that this is a very unique, exuberant, and expressive beast of a record that was just a lot of fun to sit with. I really like the enthusiasm behind it, and I think that it's so, I call it like acrobatically achieved in its rhythmic sensibility, and I think that really says it well enough. Why I would give it a high recommendation. So check it out for yourself. This released on March 28th. Make sure you don't miss this one. It's a strange looking record, but it will be a rewarding thing to really dive into if any of those interests line up with your own. Go ahead and read my review on this site and see what you think.